Yesterday, I went over the best NHL player from every draft since 2000, so today we're going to continue the draft-related content and go over the biggest steal from every draft since 2000. Now, that is a little bit vague because I do think you can still get a draft steal in the first round or the second round, but for the sake of this video not just being filled with late first-round picks and second-round draft picks, we are only going to be looking at players who were drafted in the 5th round and beyond, so the real diamonds in the rough. If this is your first time checking out the channel and you want more draft related content just like this as we get closer and closer to the 2024 NHL draft at the end of the month, then be sure to hit that subscribe button. So with that all being said, let's go ahead and start things off with the 2000 NHL draft, and my pick for the biggest steal is the same player that I picked as the best player from the entire class in yesterday's video, Henrik Lundqvist, the Rangers 7th round pick, 205th overall, consistently one of the best goaltenders in the NHL throughout the 2000s and 2010s. He finished his career with just 2 losing seasons, and they were his final 2 years in the league. Lundqvist would finish his career 6th on the NHL's all-time wins list. He was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2023, and not only is he the biggest steal from this draft, he's one of the biggest steals of all time. For the biggest steal from the 2001 NHL draft, we have another Rangers selection here, Marek Zidlicki, a 6th round pick, 176th overall by the Rangers. Zidlicki never ended up playing a single game for New York. He broke into the NHL in 03-04 with the Nashville Predators, where he put up a career-high 53 points in 82 games as a rookie, and while Zidlicki was never able to hit the 50-point mark again throughout his career, he still had multiple other seasons where he was well over a half point per game, scored 12-plus goals in a season 4 times, he hit a real heavy shot, and he had a big physical element to his game as well. Never really a superstar, but a quality all-around top 4 defenseman for quite a long time. Moving on now to the 2002 NHL draft, my pick for the biggest steal is Dennis Wideman, who was selected in the 8th round, 241st overall by the Buffalo Sabres, so Wideman was taken in a round that doesn't even exist anymore. Similar to what I said about Marek Zidlicki, Dennis Wideman was never a superstar, but definitely had a couple of very good seasons, including a career-high 15 goals and 56 points in 80 games with the Calgary Flames in 2014-15. That being said, the only thing I really remember him for is absolutely obliterating that referee back in 2016, letting his intrusive thoughts win. For those of you watching this who have played an organized sport before, doesn't even have to be hockey, could be football, basketball, lacrosse, soccer. I'm sure there was a time where you thought about doing what Dennis Wideman did. The 2003 NHL draft is up next, and this is a very easy one. One of the biggest steals in NHL history, Joe Pavelski, a 7th round pick, 205th overall by the San Jose Sharks. Not officially retired yet, but based off of some of the things that Joe Pavelski said after the Stars were eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs, it sounds like he's probably done. And if that's the case, then hats off to Joe Pavelski for an unbelievable career. One of the most consistent players of this generation, scored 20 plus goals in 14 of his 18 seasons he played in the NHL, played the game the right way, a very strong two-way player. I don't like to put a whole lot of stock into plus minus, but Pavelski only finished a season with a negative plus minus once in his 18-year career, which is very impressive. An incredibly clutch player as well, had some massive playoff performances throughout his career, which unfortunately never led to Joe Pavelski winning a Stanley Cup, but Stanley Cup or not, Joe Pavelski still had an unbelievable career, one of the best American-born players of all time. Next up, we have the 2004 NHL draft, and my pick for the biggest steal is definitely going to be Pekka Rinne, who was selected in the 8th round, 258th overall by the Nashville Predators. Pekka Rinne is the active leader for pretty much every single goaltending category in Nashville Predators franchise history. He won the Vezina Trophy with the Predators in 2018, a season in which he finished with a record of 42-13-4 and a save percentage of .927, and amongst Finnish-born goaltenders, Pekka Rinne is the all-time leader in games played, wins, and shutouts, and he's also one of only 14 goaltenders in NHL history to actually score a goal during the regular season, which is pretty cool to have on the resume. Moving on now to the 2005 NHL draft, my pick for the biggest steal is actually the last pick of the entire draft, Patrick Hornqvist, 7th round, 230th overall by the Nashville Predators. Hornqvist finished his career playing over 900 games, scoring 20 plus goals in a season 8 different times, and won back-to-back Stanley Cups with the Penguins in 2016 and 2017. He was a pretty key piece of both of those Penguins teams. The odds of someone taken with the last pick of the NHL draft to even appear in a single NHL game are low as it is, so the fact that Hornqvist, as the last pick of the 05 draft, put together this kind of career is very impressive. The 2006 NHL draft is up next, and my pick for the biggest steal in the 5th round and beyond is Matthew Perreault, who was selected selected by the Washington Capitals in the 6th round, 177th overall. Matthew Perreault was a pretty key piece for the Winnipeg Jets from 2014 to 2017, 3 consecutive 40-plus point seasons. Aside from those few years though, for the most part, throughout Matthew Perreault's career, he was just a decent bottom 6 center with some scoring touch. 2007 is up next, and this is a very easy one. The biggest steal is definitely Jamie Benn, who was selected by the Dallas Stars in the 5th round, 129th overall. Jamie Benn currently ranks 2nd in both games played and points in Dallas Stars franchise history, only behind Mike Modano in both of those categories. At 34 years old, Jamie Benn has already had 11 20-plus goal seasons. He won the Art Ross Trophy as the league's leading goal scorer in 2015 with 87 points. Getting your future captain and just one of the best players in your franchise's history in the 5th round is some pretty absurd value. Similar to Joe Pavelski and Henrik Lundqvist, I think Jamie Benn's name can be thrown into that conversation as well as one of the biggest draft steals of all time. Moving on now to the 2008 NHL draft, my pick for the biggest steal is Jared Spurgeon, who was selected in the 6th round, 156th overall by the New York Islanders. Spurgeon never ended up playing a single game with the Islanders, as they never signed him to his entry-level contract. They didn't retain his rights, so Minnesota decided to give him a chance and signed him to an ELC in 2010. And man, what a find Spurgeon turned out to be for the Minnesota Wild. Obviously, future captain of the team, and in my opinion, one of the more underrated defensemen of the 2010s and 2020s so far. Throughout his career, I feel like Spurgeon has flown under the radar and just consistently put up fantastic two-way results, playing in every situation, getting top pair minutes, just overall a fantastic complete defenseman. The 2009 NHL draft is up next, and we have another player who ended up being a future captain, Anders Lee, who was selected in the 6th round, 152nd overall by the New York Islanders. Anders Lee has been a pretty consistent goal scorer for the Islanders throughout his career, hit the 20-plus goal mark 8 times, including a career-high 40 goals in the 2017-18 season. He's never really had much of a playmaking element to his game, but he's very physical, likes to throw his weight around, plays a decent defensive game, and overall is just a very effective middle 6 power forward. Next up, we have the 2010 NHL draft, and my pick for the biggest steal is Brendan Gallagher, who was selected by the Montreal Canadiens in the 5th round with the 147th overall draft pick. Yet another player who turned out to be a future captain. That's now 4 in a row. Over these last few seasons, Gallagher's game has definitely taken quite a few steps back. He's taken on a much lesser role. He's dealt with injuries, but in his prime, Brendan Gallagher was a very effective top 6 forward, a 2-time 30-goal scorer, finished with 50-plus points in the season twice, and obviously aside from the offensive production, Brendan Gallagher has always been one of those guys who affects the game in different ways. He's an agitator, annoying to play against, kind of cut from the same cloth as guys like Brad Marchand and Tyler Bertuzzi in that sense. Moving on now to the 2011 NHL draft, my pick for the biggest steal definitely has to be Andre Palat, who was selected in the 7th round with the 208th overall pick by the Tampa Bay Lightning. Andre Palat went on to become one of the best defensive forwards in the entire NHL, and at 33 years old, that still stands true today, even though since getting to New Jersey, his offensive production has taken a bit of a step back. He's still very effective defensively, and he's somebody who played a key role for the Tampa Bay Lightning, winning those back-to-back Stanley Cups in 2020 and 2021. Not bad at all for a 7th round pick. The 2012 draft is up next, and this is an easy one. It has to be Connor Hellebuck, who was selected in the 5th round with the 130th overall pick by the Winnipeg Jets. Over these past 8 seasons, Connor Hellebuck has consistently been one of the absolute best goaltenders in the entire NHL. He won the Vezina Trophy in 2020. He may end up winning it again this year in 2024. Him, along with Demko and Bobrovsky, are the 3 finalists, and in my opinion, he probably should have won the Vezina in 2018 as well, the year Pekka Rinne won it. Listen, I love Pekka Rinne, but I think Connor Hellebuck kind of got robbed. He set an NHL record that year for the most wins in a single season by an American-born goaltender with 44. Next up, we have the 2013 NHL draft, and my pick for the biggest steal definitely has to be Mackenzie Weegar, who was selected in the 7th round with the 206th overall draft pick by the Florida Panthers. Weegar really has developed into an absolute beast of a top pairing defenseman. He excels in pretty much every area of the game, fantastic defensively, has an offensive element to his game as well, put up a career high 52 points this past season in 82 games, 20 of which were goals. This past season, he actually became the first player in NHL history to block 200 shots and score 20 goals in a single season, which is a a very impressive record to hold, and I think it just speaks to how versatile of a game Mackenzie Weegar has. Speaking of very versatile defensemen, my pick for the biggest steal from 2014 is Gustav Forsling, who was selected in the 5th round, 126th overall by the Vancouver Canucks. Forsling never ended up playing a single game with the Vancouver Canucks. He spent some time in the Chicago Blackhawks organization, was traded to the Carolina Hurricanes, and then was eventually claimed off of waivers by the Florida Panthers in 2021, a waiver claim that could go down as the best of all time if it's not already. Gustav Forsling is now a key member of the Florida Panthers blue line, a legit top pairing guy who plays a very effective two-way game. He's a fantastic skater, produces offense at 5-on-5 very efficiently. He's a guy that doesn't get a ton of looks on the power play, but over these last 3 seasons, he still managed to score double digits in goals and be right around that 40-point mark. The 2015 draft is up next, and this is an easy one. Kirill Kaprizov, a 5th round pick, 135th overall by the Minnesota Wild. When it's all said and done, I think Kirill Kaprizov is another guy who, similar to what I said about Jamie Benn and Joe Pavelski and Henrik Lundqvist, who's gonna go down as one of the biggest draft steals of all time. The Minnesota Wild had to wait a while for Kirill Kaprizov to come over to the NHL from the KHL, but as soon as he did, it was very clear that, this is a guy who's going to be well worth the wait. He won the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year in 2021 in that shortened 56-game season. He had 51 points. He scored 40-plus goals and been well over a point per game in each of the past 3 seasons. A legit superstar in every sense of the word, one of the most talented wingers in the league, and he's the kind of guy you build your franchise around. Moving on now to the 2016 NHL Draft, my pick for the biggest steal definitely has to be Jesper Bratt, who was selected in the 6th round, 162nd overall by the New Jersey Devils, who over these last 3 seasons has really broken out and became an elite top-line forward with a very well-rounded offensive game, 25-plus goals and 70-plus points in each of the past 3 seasons, including a career-high 83 points this past season. He's a fantastic skater with an elite set of hands, great vision, really patient with the puck, and overall just a very fun player to watch. The 2017 draft is up next, and my pick for the biggest steal is going to be Noah Cates, who was selected in the 5th round with the 137th overall pick by the Philadelphia Flyers. Noah Cates took on a little bit lesser of a role this past season and saw his offensive production take a step back from his 38.13 goal season in 2022-23, but still a very effective two-way bottom 6 forward. The 2018 draft is up next, and this one is a no-brainer. Igor Sharangovich, 5th round selection, 141st overall by the New Jersey Devils, was sent to the Calgary Flames last summer as part of the Tyler Toffoli trade, and Sharangovich really broke out in his first season with the Flames. Career highs across the board, 31 goals, 28 assists, 59 points. He actually led the Calgary Flames in goals. He's got a nose for the net, has a fantastic shot, and is the kind of player that I think should be able to be in that 20 to 25 goal range pretty consistently throughout his career. Moving on now to the 2019 NHL Draft, my pick for the biggest steal is going to be Raphael Harvey-Pinard, 7th round selection, 201st overall by the Montreal Canadiens. Kind of came out of nowhere in 2022-23, scored 14 goals and had 20 points in just 34 games with Montreal. I think we all kind of expected for that offensive production to come back down to earth a little bit this season, which is exactly what happened. Harvey-Pinard scored just 2 goals in the 45 games he played with Montreal this past season. However, the underlying numbers suggest that he's still pushing play in the right direction and overall is a pretty effective, speedy bottom 6 winger. The 2020 draft is up next, and now we're getting into the range where it's real slim pickings in terms of players that have actually appeared in NHL games drafted in the 5th round and beyond, but I definitely think the pick for 2020 has to be Devin Levi, who was selected in the 7th round, 212th overall by the Florida Panthers, was sent to the Buffalo Sabres as part of the Sam Reinhart deal. Devin Levi definitely didn't have the rookie season this year that I think everyone was expecting him to, but he's still shown a lot of promise at the NHL level, and when he was sent down to the American Hockey League, he dominated down there, finished the season 16-6-4 with a 927. Still a guy that I'm pretty confident is going to be the future in net for the Buffalo Sabres and is definitely progressing very nicely for someone who was just a 7th round draft pick 4 years ago. Moving on now to the 2021 NHL draft, my pick for the biggest steal so far, it's going to be Joshua Waugh, 5th round selection, 150th overall by the Montreal Canadiens. Waugh has looked really good pretty much everywhere he's played since being drafted. The 2 seasons he stayed in the QMJHL after being selected, expected. He absolutely dominated, was very productive in the American Hockey League this past season as well, with 13 goals and 32 points in 41 games. And we also get to see him have a 23-game stint in the NHL with Montreal to close out this past season, in which he looked pretty damn good as well, playing in limited minutes. This is a guy with a ton of skill. I think he has all the potential in the world to be a very effective top 6 forward for the Montreal Canadiens, and it's still very early, but all signs are pointing towards him turning out to be an absolute steal. For the 2022 NHL draft, the only player who has appeared in an NHL game drafted in the 5th round and beyond is Maximilian Zuber, who was selected in the 6th round, 163rd overall by Arizona. He only appeared in one game thus far, but I guess he gets this spot by default. And that is where we are going to close out the video, because when it comes to the 2023 NHL draft, no players drafted in the 5th round and beyond have appeared in an NHL game yet. But be sure to let me know down below in the comments, especially for these more recent years, who are some prospects that might not have broken into the NHL yet, but you think are already looking like steals, whether they're playing in junior, college, overseas. Let me know down below. If you guys got all the way to the end of the video and you ended up enjoying, please remember to leave it a like. It definitely does help out the videos a ton, and it's the best way to let me know that you enjoyed. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this all year round, hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all again soon.